I'm going to start with a joke. So, of course, there's no shortage of mother-in-law jokes, so we're going to start with a joke. This is a joke that actually I saw Sayyidina say, and Bashnuda said this joke, so I thought it might be okay to say it. So this guy had a parrot, and the parrot would repeat everything he said, and the parrot said, I hate my mother-in-law, I hate my mother-in-law. So he was scared. He was like, my mother-in-law is going to get upset. So he said, I have to do something about that. So he went to his priest, and he said, I have this parrot that keeps saying, I hate my mother-in-law, and I don't know what to do. So he told him, well, we have a parrot in church that says hymns, so I think it'll be good if you put them together, and then the one that says hymns will teach the other one, and they should be good. So he did that, and then a couple of weeks later, he goes back to his priest, and he said, it's worse. And then Abuna said, why? He says, one parrot says, I hate my mother-in-law, and the other one says, Amin. So, and another small joke, and then we'll go. Why did Peter deny Jesus? Because he cured his mother-in-law. So. All right. So anyway, we have to know, what do we owe our mother-in-law, or what do we owe? It's usually the mother that's the brunt of everything, but what do we owe our in-laws, really? Do we feel like we're caught? Didn't make it. Okay. Do we feel like we are caught between trying to please them or trying to avoid annoying them or bothering them? Sometimes even us trying to please them gets, annoying to them. For example, if you ask your mother-in-law, do you need help with something? And she says, are you saying I can't do it myself? So sometimes you're caught, you don't know what to do. Doing this makes them upset, doing this makes them upset. So you're caught in the middle. Or do you want to be by yourself and you're bothered that they're always around, or how your husband or wife treats them? Or are you trying to just keep your husband and your wife happy? So what is it that we owe them? As Christians, we're taught to honor our parents. And if you are, as the Bible tells us, when you get married, the two become one. So they are now your parents. So we have to be able to treat them like we treat our own parents. And also, just as a Christian, you owe everybody, including your in-laws, Christian behavior. So you should be behaving toward your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, everybody with good Christian behavior. So what does honoring mean? Now, there's going to be several things, but it means trying to show patience or treat them with patience, kindness, as well as respect. And that could mean, honoring also their rank or their position. So, for example, when we honor the president or a priest, we don't have to agree with everything that they say, but we honor them for their rank and for their position. So, possible conflicts that could arise. Oops, that's a very strong microphone. So, for example, one spouse could say, I need to be close to my parents because they show me love, and they feel like they need to be close to their parents because of that. The problem with that is if you're not getting the love that you need from your spouse, then there's something going on in the marriage that you need to be looking at. Some other things problems that could arise, for example, my parents are too old, or they don't speak English, or they need to be driven everywhere, or whatever. So are these truly things that you want to do for your parents or your in-laws, or is this a guilt trip that you're putting on yourself or that your parents are putting on you? So what does honoring not mean? It doesn't require that you put all your feelings aside and all your desires and all your preferences so that to do everything their way. That's not respecting. Does it mean you permit them to disrespect and control you and everything because of their needs? No, it doesn't mean that either. Or it doesn't mean obeying all that they say for you to do, which sometimes it's pretty crazy according to some parents. So is it obeying everything that they want you to do, even though it doesn't make sense to you or it doesn't fit with what you have for your life? sometimes the most honoring thing that we can do for our parents is to say no. Because what is more respectful is to say, no, I really would rather not do that, or to say yes and then not do it. So it's better to say, no, I'm sorry, this isn't something that I'm comfortable doing, or maybe not today, or, you know, say it in an assertive and respectful way. So assertion is saying what you need and what you want in a respectful way. So it's very important to be assertive from the beginning so that you can not have them run everything their way. Sometimes in-laws split. Does everybody know what splitting means? Well, I'll give one example. Like, they go and ask one kid one thing, we're not kids, but one husband or wife one thing, and then that person says no, and then they'll go ask the other one. Kids do that with their parents a lot, but also parents tend to split with us as well. So none of those things are showing true Christian love. So there are some myths that come along with in-laws. One myth is after the relationship, after marriage, your relationship with your in-laws will stay the same. Why is that not true? Because things change. For example, when you're first engaged or when you're first dating, the parents let the couple get away with a lot of stuff. They say they're arayas, let them do whatever they want. And then right after marriage, things change drastically, because all of a sudden it's like, how come you're not coming over? You didn't come on my birthday. You didn't listen to what I said. So things change after marriage. So just because you get along with your in-laws before marriage doesn't mean you're going to get along with them after. Another myth is once you're married, I think that's the one I just said. Anyway. Yeah, so once you're married, that the parents will lose control over you. But that's not true either, because the truth is that if you, that marriage is an act of leaving and cleaving, and sometimes parents have a very hard time of letting go of their kids and feeling that everything that they wanted their kids to do before, they still want them to do after. The problem also is a lot of times the kids have a problem with leaving. So you have to know that once you're married, you're now a part of a whole other unit, and you're no longer part of your original family. The next one is, although I don't like my in-laws, I feel more like loving them after marriage. Now, if your in-laws did something that bothers you a little bit, imagine if they keep doing that same thing 100 times, because it's probably going to happen. So something that annoyed you a little bit is going to annoy you a lot more after. So things don't get better, they increase in intensity. And any feeling you have that you don't express becomes a lot more intense if you don't express it appropriately. Another myth is I don't have to deal with my parents much after marriage. Now, for some people, that is the case, especially when their in-laws live in another state or far away. You don't have to deal with them that much. But most of the time, they are not far away, they're close by, and you will have to be dealing with them after. So don't feel like as soon as I get married, I don't have to have this issue anymore. And the last myth is actually a negative one, which we also can't just assume is true. My in-laws are annoying, intrusive, bothersome. We don't have to assume that that's the case until it happens. You might be the lucky people, which I think there's a lot of people, that your in-laws are not intrusive, they're letting you do whatever you want, they don't get in the way, they don't keep telling you what to do. So don't assume something negative until it happens. A couple that I know, that I was seeing, he would assume as soon as his wife went to her parents that they told her something negative about him. And so you don't have to assume that's true unless you're paranoid or you have an issue with what you do. So it's very important not to keep going to your parents for everything after too. I know another couple that every time they had a fight, she went to her parents and she told them everything, and her sisters. And nobody was supportive of the husband. They were always telling her, yeah, he's horrible. So there's a few things wrong with that. First of all, what if it's just a minor issue? And of course, when you first get married, there's a lot of things that you have to iron out. What if it's a minor issue that you'd resolved already, but your parents or your sister or whoever still has a negative feeling of your husband and your wife, and they can't get that out of their heads? So it's better not to tell them all this negative stuff. But the other thing is that if you keep going to them for everything, you're not talking to each other. You're not resolving your issues with each other. You need to learn how to communicate and get along and resolve your issues so that you're not running to them for everything. And in this situation that I was talking about, because her parents kept hating him more and more, and she would go crying and they would let her stay over and everything, her father had a heart attack, and they actually blamed her husband for that. They said, you know, because of your problems, our father had a heart attack. But whose fault is it? She's the one that kept going to them with everything and burdening her father with problems that he didn't need to be burdened with. So, anyway, so remember Ruth. She was one of the most ideal people relating to her mother-in-law, because her husband actually died and she still spent time with her mother-in-law and went with her wherever. So in Ruth it says, "For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and my God, your God." So who of us will do that if our spouse is not around, still hang around with our mother-in-law? I think it's very rare. So what is the most important thing for us is our family unit. We have to care about our husband, our wife, our children. That's our nuclear family unit. That's what should matter. And I'll go into that in detail a little bit more about how to treat your husband or wife. What does honoring mean? The Bible tells us to honor. It says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, that it may be well with you and you live long on earth." So this is, it was said, of course, in the Ten Commandments, and also Jesus repeated it in Ephesians. So it's a very important commandment. And Jesus himself honored his parents, even though he was God and Savior, and he still didn't disrespect his parents. But the Bible also tells us that a man should leave his father or mother, or a woman or whoever. It says a man, but should leave his father and mother and join his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So the Bible tells us also to leave. And also, "Listen, O daughter, consider and incline your ear. Forget your own people also and your father's house, so the king will greatly desire your purity, because he is Lord, worship him." So the Bible tells us to leave as well. Before we discuss solutions, let's talk about what could be the problem or what is important. Remember, like I said, you and your husband are there for each other, and you have someone who's watching over you. There are some typos that I noticed later, but ignore them. Also, that your marriage and your children should always come first. And this is actually a myth. I should have put it with the myth. But if you love your in-laws, your husband should also love your parents, which might not be the case. And remember, most importantly, it's all about being a Christian and living like a true Christian. So what are the areas of spousal interaction that are important for the husband and wife to be together? I'm going to look at each of these, and also how in-laws can affect these areas of the marriage. So the areas are love and affection, intimacy and sexuality, communication, mutual validation and respect, and meeting each other's needs. So how can parents or in-laws get in the way of love and respect? If the in-laws drop by whenever, or they're always around, or they demand a lot of the couple's time, this could be a problem, because the couple aren't spending enough time getting to know each other and growing closer and learning more about each other's needs. And this is more problematic earlier on in the marriage, when it's very important for the couple to have a lot of time together. So an understanding parent will be less intrusive and let the kids have their time so that they get to know each other. It's very important to tell your parents in a respectful way, like, "We love you very much, but we would like you not to come over without calling," or "We respect your opinion and we love to spend more time with you, but we just need this time alone." Remember, whenever you're asking of demands or requests of your parents, to ask it in a loving way and to say something positive first. So when you ask something, you say, I know you love us. I know you want to spend time with us. Thank you so much for your concern, for your time. We love you. We like this. So if you say something hopefully positive first, it's easier for the parents to understand. So in a relationship, the couple should have a policy of radical honesty. That means nothing should be kept from each other. Everything that you say, to your spouse is 100% honest. Don't hide. If you feel like you don't get along with their parents, you don't want them to be upset, so you don't tell them. It's important to tell them. It's important to say, this is how I feel, let's do something about it, and talk to each other about it. And joint agreement, especially when it comes to a relationship with parents or with your children, always agree on things. So always sit together, talk to each other, agree about things before you make a decision. So if a husband says, well, I don't want to upset my mom, so I'm just going to tell her it's okay for her to come over without asking my wife, you're now not being completely honest with your spouse. And also of utmost respect. You have to be willing to respect each other's opinions, even if you don't agree with it. So there are times when somebody has an opinion about maybe time spent with parents or whatever, and the other spouse doesn't agree. You have to respect that person's opinion. Hopefully all of these issues are discussed before you get married so that it's all resolved and you know how you feel about all of these situations before they arise. Intimacy and sexuality, how could in-laws get in the way? There's a couple of important ways. In order for intimacy and sexuality isn't something that occurs in the bedroom. It occurs all the time, and a person can't really feel intimate or feel like giving themselves to the other person if they don't feel loved and respected. So it's something, especially women, I'm speaking because I don't know how men are, but women really need to be loved and respected and asked how they feel and told nice things, or else sexuality is not going to happen. So if the in-laws are always there, there's a couple of problems. You can't really show affection too much when they're always around, or you're not spending time alone, so you're not feeling loved and respected. So there's a lot of issues that come along with that. Some people don't feel comfortable showing affection in front of others, and if there's always others around, then the person doesn't know that how the other person feels about them. Communication is something very important, and there's a lot of things that we could say about that, but it's very important again to have communication that's open with your spouse and not to hide anything. Many things can get in the way of that. For example, again, if the in-laws are always around, the couple might not have enough time alone to talk about what's going on, or something comes up in your mind and you say, oh, I can't say it because my in-laws are here, I'll wait till they leave, and then you totally forget when they leave, and you never really communicate that. And if you don't communicate how you feel about the other person, their parents, or what's going on, then you're letting things go, and it's going to grow and fester and become more upsetting to you. And sometimes you don't know, or you're not sure that the other person supports you in that. So you have to know and talk to each other so that you could know that the other person either agrees with you or doesn't agree with you, and how they support you in that decision. Validation and respect are very important. It's very important to validate your spouse's feelings, even though you might not agree with them. Again, for example, if one person really wants to spend more time alone, it's not okay. I put it's but okay, but it's not okay to say, don't be silly, we spend plenty of time together. It isn't the case. If that person wants more time alone, then you should be able to validate that and be okay with that. So it's better to say something like, I'm sorry, I know that's important to you, we'll work on that. Let's talk about that, let's work on that, and so we can come up with ways that we can get around that. We can talk to them again about not coming over unannounced, or asking before, or not spending too much time. So it's also very important to respect the spouse and not put him or her down in front of the other person, in front of especially their parents. What happens if you put down your spouse in front of his parents? What you're doing is you're causing them to not like you, because you're putting down their child in front of them. But also, if you put down your spouse in front of your parents, again, like I said, you're teaching them that that's not a good person and you don't respect them. And so your parents are going to tend to not like your spouse. So also, when someone's being put down all the time in front of someone else, they start feeling bad about themselves. They don't have good self-esteem, and then that way they're not going to show true love and mutual respect to the other person. Even if your opinions are radically different from each other, respect each other's opinions, but find out what they are. Some people don't find out what the other person's opinions are until it's too late. So find out what the other person's opinions are before, and then either you don't have to change your opinion. You don't have to say, now I believe this because my spouse believes that, but just know what their opinion is, respect their opinion, and then agree to disagree. Another thing that's important is, I don't know if anybody here is an in-law, but it's important as an in-law to give time and respect and space to your children as well. So I know, because I am an in-law, and it's hard. It isn't easy, but you want to see your kids whenever, but you need to be able to respect their time and move on and get a life, get something to do, so that you're not requiring everything of your children. If you put all these things in mind, then you know not to intrude on them, or to ask first before you go, or not to assume that they want to eat your food all the time. Maybe the wife is a great cook and her husband wants to eat her food. Don't assume that your cooking is always better than their cooking, or that they definitely need to be with you. So the next thing is we do have to meet each other's needs. There are needs that we have. Everybody has several aspects of themselves. We have our intellectual self, our emotional self, our spiritual self. There's all parts of us. So our husband and wife should not meet all our needs, or if a person feels like they're missing something, so they get together with another person to fill their void, that's not appropriate either. But as a husband or wife, our job is to fill some needs, and those needs are love and affection and respect, companionship and support. So everybody needs to be loved, and you could love yourself by having good self-esteem, but we really do need love from another person. I think if we could totally live alone and have all these needs met, we probably would be a monk, and we get all those needs met from God, which is great. But most of us do need another person for these things. Respect, companionship. Everybody, it's hard to come home and nobody's around and you have to spend time alone. So don't feel like that you have to fulfill everybody's every need, but remember that as a spouse, your job is to fill these needs, or to be there for this person. Yeah, so that's just the last part of that. So important is to, for us, not to be looking for that, who's going to fill my needs, but for me to say, what can I give to the other person? It's important for you to give rather than to wait to receive. And if you don't give the companionship and the love and the support, then the other person maybe isn't asking for it, but they feel like there's something missing in their lives. So I am done, and I put questions, but I was told we are not going to do that. So.